Inshallah, we would continue and complete the topic for Aql today, inshallah. As I mentioned in the very beginning of this topic, that the ability to reason and understand Al-Aql is a very special blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for human beings. However, it is important to understand that Aql has its own limitations. Every blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has given us, we have sight, but sight has its own limitation. What is not in front of you, you cannot see. Correct? Your hearing, if the person who's talking is too distant from you, you won't be able to hear it. Your sense of smell, same thing. If you're close enough to where the fragrance is, you will smell it or you will not. Everything, every blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has given us has its limitations. It's not completely perfect. Besides its limitations, the other important thing for us to understand is that all these blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they're not taken care of properly, they become sick. If your eyes, you don't take care of them, your vision gets distorted. You need glasses. If you still don't take care of it, it even gets worse. Similarly, if you have your ears plugged in with the very heavy music, eventually you become hard of hearing. Correct? So everything that Allah has blessed us with, it can become sick and lose its ability to function properly. Important to understand this point before I can talk about the Aql's limitation. Now let's talk about Al-Aql. Aql can only function properly when it is provided the information and knowledge it needs. For Aql to perform properly, it is totally dependent upon the information and knowledge. Now, what are the sources of this information and knowledge for us? Obviously, the five senses. You know, what we hear, what we see, what we feel, what we touch. All these things bring information for the Aql to make some judgments, to make some decisions, to make some sense out of what it is seeing. The other source of information besides the five senses are personal experiences. We experience things in our lives, and those experiences bring information to us for the Aql to make some judgments. Make sense? But those are not enough. That point is very important to understand. A person, there are mashallah 10, 15 people sitting here, and you're all listening to what I'm saying. And you're all seeing me. But each one of your eyes may be focusing on different things at different times, in different seconds. And you may all be hearing something different. Although you are all listening to me talk. But if I ask you after 10 minutes what it is that you heard I say, you would all have a different version of what I said. Therefore, the information that is provided to us through our experiences and through these senses may be misperceptions. And these misperceptions happen all the time with all of us. There's no exceptions about it. So what is the source of information then, which is never wrong? What is the source of information for the Aql, which will never be wrong? And that source is naql. Naql. What is written, what has been sent to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quran is not. It's the written guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to us through Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, through Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What Allah said in the Quran and how Allah's Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam interpreted it and explained to us can never be wrong. And that part is important to understand. The reason why we have in this world so much problems, so much misunderstandings, is we refuse to look at the one source of information that can never be wrong. We listen to all kinds of media information, we listen to all kinds of things, we hear all kinds of things, and we make judgments based on it, and they always come out wrong. Because they are perceptions of people which may be wrong. Correct? This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran. Without the correct knowledge and information, the aql can never reach the right conclusion. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised the ulama in the Quran. Allah ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. Only those of Allah's servants having knowledge fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if we did not have the information from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about the day of judgment, about this life being short, about this life and this world being a place of examination and test, about the accountability in the day of judgment, if we did not have that information, if we did not have that knowledge, we will not fear it. So, those who don't believe in Allah, those who don't believe in the day of judgment, they will never reach the right conclusion about life here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has explained this so beautifully in the story of Musa alayhi salam. And I'm just going to share this story. I'm sure you all have heard it, because I'm going to put a new perspective on it from the Aql's perspective. Right? So, you all have read Surah Kahf many times, and I'm sure that many of you read it every Jummah. And I'm sure that many of you have read it with translation as well. So you know the story of Musa alayhi salam and Khizr alayhi salam. So the story goes like this. Musa alayhi salam was one time giving a khutbah. And somebody asked him, who is the person who is most knowledgeable on the earth at this time? This is you find this in the interpretation of the Quran, most of the Quran interpretations. So, spontaneously, without thinking, he said, I. Why? Remember, always try to understand why this happened. Why would he say I? You see, we read this and we just move on. And we don't think. Why did he say I am? Because from his knowledge, he said, I am the Nabi. I am the Rasul. I get the Wahi. Who can be more knowledgeable than me?
Very interesting.
Why would he think like this? Because he did not have the full information. He did not have the full information. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately corrected him. He said, no, Musa. There's another servant of mine who lives where the two seas come together, and he has more knowledge than you. Now Musa alayhi was a pretty strong, stubborn kind of a person. He said, okay, then I'm going to see him. So the story goes that he takes Yusha bin Nun, his servant, and he asked him to, fix some fish for dinner. And he was told that where this fish goes back, comes back alive, and jumps into the ocean, there you will find it. That will be the place where the two seas come together. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. So they went, and they traveled, and they traveled, and they traveled. At the end of the day, he got tired. He said, okay, man, that's it. Where's my food? So the servant says, you know what I forgot to mention to you? The last place that we camped, something happened, and this fish just jumped out of the pan and made its way into the water. He says, man, that's what we're looking for. Why did you tell me about this? He said, I completely forgot, because you were in a rush to move forward. He said, let's go back. So they traced their way back and got to the place. And they found Khidr alayhi sitting on a rock there. Give salam to him. He asked him, what is his name, Musa? He said, oh, the Nabi of the Bani Israel. He said, yes. He says, what's your business here? He says, I want to stay in your company to learn the knowledge that Allah has given you. Hazrat Khidr alayhi said, you will not be able to tolerate it. You will not be able to understand it. Because you are a Nabi. And your knowledge is the knowledge of the Nabi. My knowledge is a different kind of knowledge. You don't have access to it. So you will not be patient with me. He said, please, 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 give me a chance. I traveled so far. I want to go with you. He said, then since you have come so far, there's one condition. You will just observe and not ask questions. You know how difficult it is for us? Just to observe it, shut our mouth and just learn. And do it. We immediately have to ask, why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? What's wrong with you? So he said, I promise. I said, all right, let's go. So the boat started to go. There came a river that they needed to pass, water. And the boat people knew Khidr, so they asked him to come and join in without charging him anything. So both of them got into the boat. Now as the boat started to go, Musa alayhi noticed that Khidr is with some axe or something in his hand, making holes in the boat. So what are you doing? These guys did this as a favor. These guys did as a favor, and you are ruining their boat. Why would he say that? Because he did not have the proper knowledge. His aql was not working as the aql of Khidr was working. SubhanAllah, look, he was a Nabi, alayhi salatu wasalam. But his aql did not have the information to come to the right conclusion. He said, didn't I tell you you won't be able to be patient? He said, sorry. No more questions. And you know the story. The next time, they come to a place, he finds a little guy, and he kills him. Now in the Sharia of Musa alayhi salam, that's haram. You took a baby's life for no reason. So I told you won't be able to be patient. You see, this very important lesson for us to learn here. Sometimes we are so sure of our little knowledge that we have. Like Musa alayhi salam was. He was so sure of the knowledge that he had, based on information he had. So based on the information that he had about Sharia, about killing somebody, He spoke up and said, this has to be wrong. This cannot be right. This cannot be justified. Now, how many times do we get in this mindset? This cannot be right.
Yeah.
This is wrong. This cannot be. And as long as we do it, we will not learn what more there is to know. Our brains are closed. Our hearts are closed. We believe this is right. And therefore we don't want to hear anything else. And we'll continue to argue and argue and argue about it. We do it all the time with our families, our children, with each other. I know what I'm talking about. I'm right. And therefore, we don't learn any further. We stop growing. And the third incident, where they got into a village, they were hungry, they wanted to ask for some food. They refused to give them some food. There was a wall that was breaking down. Khidr very quickly went and fixed this wall. Says, at least you could have asked them some money. These are so ungrateful people. As their guests, they would not even feed us. Why don't you ask them for some money or some food? He says, that's it, Musa, that's it. Your chances are over. And then he explained each one of those incidents. Something very important to learn here. He said that the boat that we made defective by putting a hole in it, the reason for that was that on the other side where this boat was going, the king or whoever was confiscating all the boats. And he's a poor man. If he confiscated his boat, he would have no way to earn a livelihood. Question: how did he know that? How did Khidr know this? Ghaib is not known besides Allah. Ghaib is not known besides Allah. How did he know this? For the second incident, he said, I killed that little boy, because that boy was going to grow up and be a problem for his parents. And his parents are very pious people. And therefore, I killed him so Allah would bless him with a good pious child. But how did he know that? He's not God. Remember these points so that you understand where does the knowledge come from and how does it come. And similarly, he explained the third situation, that underneath that wall was some treasure which belonged to 2 orphans. The people, you already saw that the people of the village are not nice people. If it had fallen, they would have just grabbed it. And Allah wanted these poor orphan kids to find their own treasure that the parents have left when they grow up. That's why, corrected the wall. You will understand where that knowledge comes from the next verse. Read it. When Musa ﷺ was asked to go to Fir'aun, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to him on the Mount of Sinai, Mount of Tur, and he gave him all these signs to show to Musa, to Fir'aun, he said, go to him and talk to him nicely and see if he would come back and believe in one God. So Musa ﷺ goes. He is anxious. He is already anxious. You already know that in the story. He says, I have my tongue is not very good. I can't speak very well. Have somebody come with me. And I have also committed a crime there. They might kill me. He was the prophet, but he was anxious. What does that tell us about human beings? Whether you're a prophet or not, you're going to suffer from anxiety. No big deal. Correct? So he goes. And when he was called a sahir, and a magician, and the Pharaoh was not listening to him, and the Pharaoh was saying, he is here so that he can take away all the good things you have from you and put you in the misery. What do you suggest? And they said, if he's a sahir, if he's a magician, those were the times of the magic. It says, bring all the magicians from our land. And we find out how good a magician he is. So they all come. And they ask Pharaoh, what would we get from you if we defeat him? I'm going to make another point here before I go on to the main subject. That question is a very important question to understand about magic. Obviously, they were very popular, well-known, big magicians in the land, am I right? That's why Pharaoh called them. And they, with all their power of the magic, are asking Pharaoh, what will be our reward if we defeat him? Oh, why don't they just use their magic and kill the goddamn Pharaoh? Why didn't they? Why did they have to beg about a reward if they won? Tells you, magic really has no power. Magic really has no power unless some power is given to it for a test of human beings. Otherwise, no. Let me get back to the story. So they came and they asked Musa alayhi salam, are you going to throw your stuff or should we show our magic? And he said, no, you go first. So they threw their ropes and their staffs, and all of these things became snakes and cobras and all kinds of things. Musa, once again, suffered from anxiety. He was not sure what I'm going to do with this now, because there are all kinds of these huge snakes all around me. He got into a panic state. And the verse of the Quran shows us what happened then. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَىٰ أَنْ أَلْقِ عَصَاكَ. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَىٰ أَنْ أَلْقِ عَصَاكَ. We signaled Moses, throw down your staff. देखो, मूसा अलैहिस्सलाम की अकल काम नहीं कर रही थी. That's the point I'm trying to make. Musa alayhi's aql, his reasoning ability, was not working at that time. What does that tell us? When we become very, very highly anxious, the aql doesn't work. It stops working, period. And how it is brought back and your strength is back? By the ilham, by the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Awhayna, that I put in his heart. I put a signal in his heart. And it was that signal that brought the aql back. And what was Allah saying? Allah already told you before that if you throw this staff, it's going to become a snake. He forgot about it. When he threw the staff, everything was cleared up. It finished off. When Musa ﷺ was born, and Pharaoh was at that time was killing every newborn male baby.
Yes.
She was afraid that I have a son that's just born. I don't want to lose my child. What am I going to do?
Allahu Akbar.
She her aql, her reasoning was not giving her any answer. Like, what do I do? What can I do with the power of Pharaoh? With the armies of Pharaoh? What happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala signaled in her, put in her. She was not a Nabi, she was not a prophet. But Allah put in her heart to do something. Put the baby in the cradle, put in the water. Now look, the point that I want to make here is that if she had used her own aql and says, what is this thought? I'm not going to have my baby drown in the water. Right? If somebody told us, just don't worry about it, put your baby in the water, he's going to be okay. We're going to say, are you crazy? But she had a qalb salim. For that ilham to occur and for you to accept it, you have to be able to realize it and recognize it. And when you recognize it and act upon it, aql is not needed anymore. Aql is no longer needed. There comes a point, my dear brothers and sisters, when aql becomes helpless. There comes a point where your reasoning abilities no longer work because you don't know what to do anymore. You don't have any information anymore. Right? What happens? If we come to a point where our aql, our reasoning ability, our intelligence stops, so we don't know anymore what to do. Let's take a simple example. You become ill. And the illness is of a nature that you have not suffered from before. You don't know what to do. What do you do then? You go to somebody who would know. Am I right? You go to a doctor who would know. And as long as you believe that this doctor is a very credible doctor, is a very well-known doctor, a very experienced doctor, whatever he diagnoses you as, and whatever he tells you that this is what's wrong with you, you would believe him. Is that right? ये भी अक्ल का कमाल है. This is also wisdom, that when you don't know, then you follow somebody who knows. That's wisdom. When we don't know about anything about life, the purpose of life, we cannot reach that information, then we go to somebody who we sure believe knows, which is the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran. Going there is also wisdom. Going there is also the use of aql. And that's also blessing. When Musa ﷺ came to the river Nile, and the armies were behind him, and the Bani Israel was telling, see, you got us fixed. Now we're all gonna be gone. How are you gonna fight this army? They were carrying all their gold and their stuff with them, so to take with them, they're gonna lose all of those things. How are we gonna fight these people? Did Musa know how he's gonna fight them? Did he know what to do? It was beyond his ability. At that point, he was completely helpless. Correct? What to do next was beyond his ability. Verse of Quran. فَوَحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَىٰ أَنْ أَضْرِبْ بِعَصَاكَ الْبَحْرَ. And Musa ﷺ stopped thinking for himself. His aql was only used to say, this is the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this wahi, and this is good enough for me. This is good enough for me. And he strikes the Nile with his staff, and it breaks open. 2 walls of water. SubhanAllah. Many a times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in our hearts these good messages to follow. But we ignore them. Because why? Because it doesn't make sense. How many times I hear young people, when they hear about some commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they say,
It doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense to me. And consequently, we lose out on all these ilham that Allah sends to all of us, by the way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends these ilham to all of us when we get stuck, if we can recognize it. SubhanAllah. The verse of Quran says, قُلْ إِنْ ضَلَلْتُ فَإِنَّمَا أَضِلُّ عَلَى نَفْسِي وَإِنْ اهْتَدَيْتُ فَبِمَا يُوحِي إِلَيَّ رَبِّي. SubhanAllah. إِنَّهُ سَمِيعٌ قَرِيبٌ. Say, if I go astray, my going astray is only for my own harm. If I don't listen, if I don't pay attention, if I don't, all the great positive thoughts that has been taught to me, and I'm being reminded of it, if I don't listen to it, and I go astray, I'm only harming myself. And if I'm rightly guided, that is because of what my Lord has revealed to me. وَإِنْ اهْتَدَيْتُ فِبِمَا يُوحِي إِلَيَّ رَبِّي. We cannot, none of us can be guided and kept on the right path if Allah's guidance was not with us all the time.
So true.
Cannot. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us in the Quran to say, قُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. قُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. Oh Allah, increase my knowledge. Because the true source of undeniable, perfect knowledge is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nothing else. Your eyes can deceive you, your hearing can deceive you, your experiences can deceive you, and there's deceptions all around us. Which is why Allah says also in the Quran, when you have differences between yourselves, turn to Allah and His Prophet. That's where you are going to get the right guidance and answer, not anywhere else. But also, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us this dua because of this. It reads, Allahumma inni as'aluka imanan da'iman, wa as'aluka qalban khashiyan, wa as'aluka ilman nafi'a. Not just ilm, but ilman nafi'a. Wa as'aluka yaqinan sadiqa. وأسألك دينا قيما وأسأل العافية من كل بلية وأسألك تمام العافية وغير ذلك. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وقلبا خاشعا ولسانا ذاكرا. Also, اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع. I seek a protection from that knowledge that doesn't benefit me any. That dua has a very important lesson. We go after the knowledge of this dunya. We go to moon to find it. We go to this to find it, out of space to find it, under the ocean to find it. And that ilm does not benefit as much in terms of what you are doing with my life. It gives you some knowledge, but what good is that knowledge? Not much. Knowledge for the sake of knowledge is not good. Knowledge just for the sake of knowledge is a waste of time. It is just to say how knowledgeable you are. You know everything. but it doesn't benefit you. And if you don't have the heart which has the khashiyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will not open up for the guidance that Allah provides you through these ilham to receive the nafi ilm, the beneficial. So my dear brothers and sisters, as much as al-aql is the greatest blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we should know that al-aql has its limitations, like every other blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And al-aql is dependent on so many other things before it can function properly. And an aql can also become sick if you're not taking care of it. If we allow the aql to be contemplating in all these stuff of the dunya that we hear, be it from science and medium, this aql becomes sick.
So true.
It can't see the light anymore. If we need to use this blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we need to seek information from the direct source, credible source. And that direct and credible source is going to solve all the other issues of the worldly life and bring you the right knowledge to be successful in those. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us understand and learn from these things and actually contemplate in our daily life. Consider what we heard. What do I learn from this? How can this be useful to me? Because if we didn't do this, then we go back from here and we keep doing the same old thing. So this topic, inshallah, finishes today. And next week, inshallah, we'll begin another topic, which I don't know right now what it will be. But inshallah, I'll let you know. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa sayyidina Muhammad. سبحان رب العالي العلي الوهاب ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الجحيم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة انك انت الوهاب ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذرياتنا قرة اعين واجعلنا للمتقين اماما اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات والأحياء والأموات اللهم انا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وانت المستعان ولك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة الا بالله العلي العظيم صلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد برحمته